Welcome back to the Matthew24 channel. Well, it's been an exciting couple of weeks in the world of biblical prophecy, so before we launch into part 3 of our study on the 7 seals from Revelation 6, I thought I'd make a few relatively quick comments regarding some recent news events that carry some considerable weight when it comes to end times prophetical events. But first up, something of a less serious nature. If you're watching this video, then it's fairly obvious that the rapture did not occur on September 23rd, as many gullible and biblically illiterate followers of this false prophet named Joshua were expecting. I'm not sure what his last name is, and I don't really care. I don't want to give him any more fame and recognition than he already has. I'll just refer to him as Joshua Malarkey for obvious reasons, but that's enough of that. But I think it serves us well to remind everyone of the words of the Lord in Matthew chapter 24, verse 11, regarding false prophets in the end times. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Well, Joshua Malarkey has certainly done that. I did a brief video on this a few days before September 23rd and have an entire series of 4 videos on the rapture here on the channel if you're interested in a real biblically based study on the subject. I could talk more about this, but frankly, I don't want to waste my time or yours. It's got far too much attention already, and there are far more important things happening in the world that actually are prophetical that deserve more serious attention and study. Now on to some real prophecy news. There is some breaking news that potentially has huge prophetical ramifications that caught my attention, and I thought it appropriate to bring to your attention as well. President Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Monday, September 29, to further discuss details regarding his peace plan that he hopes will end the war in Gaza if they can get Hamas to agree to the terms being offered. There were several quotes from Trump on the Sunday preceding his meeting with Netanyahu that definitely got my full, undivided attention, as they are jumping right off of the pages of Scripture and relate directly to one of the very biggest prophetical signs that would not only confirm that Trump is indeed the final end times Antichrist, but would also confirm that we are very near the final 7 years of history as we know it. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But let's take a look at Trump's quotes regarding the situation in Gaza. Quote, "I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace, and if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left," Trump said. "Everyone else has accepted it." Trump also said, "We're doing very well. It looks like there is a really good chance for peace in the Middle East. Everybody is on board. Everybody," end quote. In a recent Truth Social post, he also added, "We have a real chance for greatness in the Middle East. All are on board for something special. First time ever. We will get it done," he said. According to an NBC News article, Trump presented his peace plan to Arab nations last week in a meeting held on the sidelines of the annual UN General Assembly. The sources who spoke with NBC News said it had been largely well received, though they were unaware if Hamas had seen the plan and said it was likely to evolve through negotiations. I can confirm as of the date of this video that the plan has indeed been received by Hamas and is under review, pending either agreement or further negotiations. If you have watched any of my prior videos or are a relatively serious student of eschatology, this news is very, very intriguing and exciting. One of the major prophetical events that is yet to unfold is the fulfillment of Daniel 9:27, which we refer to as the covenant with many. I have discussed this key prophecy in several of my other videos as the fulfillment of this peace treaty between Israel and her Arab neighbors, and perhaps others, that will eventually be orchestrated and put into place by the Antichrist himself is the triggering event that kicks off the period of time in the end times referred to as the time of Jacob's trouble, or Daniel's 70th week. This is a 7-year period that begins with a peace agreement, which is broken by the Antichrist midway through this 7-year period, when he puts an end to the sacrifice and offerings, which will eventually resume once the third and final Jewish temple is established in Jerusalem. The Bible tells us that the Antichrist will enter this temple, set up an abomination that leads to desolation, and proclaim to be God. This abomination of the temple is what triggers the final 3.5 year of the tribulation period, known as the Great Tribulation. It includes the pouring out of God's wrath on the entire world and its inhabitants, and culminates with the second coming of Jesus Christ. I'm not saying that this peace deal to end the war in Gaza is the covenant with many, but it certainly is, at a minimum, laying the foundation for a broader agreement that could eventually include the entire Middle East and beyond if the terms of that agreement end up being 7 years. We will know for sure that we are witnessing the final fulfillment of Daniel 9:27. This would start the 7-year countdown clock to ticking and would also confirm what myself and Brother Paul at Antichrist 45 and Dr. Cliff Kelly have been suspecting for a number of years now, and that is that Donald J. Trump is, in fact, the final end times Antichrist. So this is potentially huge prophetical news. It's important to note that Trump specifically mentioned in a press conference following his meeting with Netanyahu that the desire is that the agreement will ultimately include a much larger region extending well beyond Gaza. Trump also specifically mentioned the expansion of the Abraham Accords, which he brought to fruition in his first term in office, and many in the prophetical world believe will end up being the covenant with many. So as you can see, these statements by Trump and his optimism for what he claims will bring eternal peace to the Middle East are quite stunning. It remains to be seen if Hamas will agree to the terms, but given that Trump is putting a lot of pressure on Hamas by giving Netanyahu the full support and backing of the United States to do whatever he feels he needs to do to finish the job in Gaza, it's hard to see how Hamas could resist unless they want to be completely annihilated. I will provide updates as this develops, but let me say that we have never been closer to the fulfillment of Daniel 9:27 than we are right now. I want to move on to our study on the 7 seals because there are some very significant developments in the news this week as well that tie directly into the opening of the first seal. God's timing is funny that way. So it's perfect timing to start examining these seals in more detail, as I believe they are already beginning to open. But in the meantime, I'd like to direct you to a video that Brother Paul at Antichrist 45 regarding this Gaza peace deal that I think you will find very interesting. Brother Paul, as usual, does an excellent job of explaining the significance of these events in light of Scripture. So please go check that out, and I will see you next time with more breaking prophetical news and part 3 of the 7 seals. God bless you all, and keep looking up. Our redemption draws nigh.